Between the Covers, the show for readers and writers and lovers of books. I'm Stephanie, and I'm a publisher at Red Penguin Books, where we work with authors of all types and genres. So if you have a book in your head, maybe 5,000 pieces of loose leaf shoved in a drawer, yes, we get envelopes full of loose leaf every single week. Visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and unleash your inner author. I am so thrilled tonight that we're going to be joined by a book club. Wine, Women, and Words of the North Shore Book Club are going to be our featured book experts tonight. They thrive on supporting local authors, and they read many types of genres of books. They also commit themselves to many local community projects. Last year, they built a library for the South Oaks Children's Psychiatric Hospital, and they're planning on building additional 3 adult units. If you would like to join their club, because goodness knows I want to, or learn a little bit more about them, we're going to have the links after the show. But I do have a couple of pictures of our book club having a ball. Look at the fun they have. I'm glad to see they're always holding books. They're always holding books, but they are huge supporters of local authors as well. And I am so thrilled about that. Some book swap parties and holiday parties.
Get them away from here. They're barking.
I'm going to be putting in my application soon. So first, let me introduce the chief wino, Stephanie. Nice to have you, Stephanie.
Hi, I'd like to introduce Kathy Tubner and Betty Cohen, Tatiana Tweedy, Joanne Faraguna.
Hi.
And Jessica Guzman.
Hi.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here. And I want an invitation to the next party, that's for sure.
Yeah, anytime you want.
Sweet. I also know we have an absolutely wonderful author on tonight, local right here to Long Island, Dina Santorelli, who I've been so privileged to interview on a number of different shows and events. Her book, In the Red, and she will be here discussing that. I am so delighted today that we're going to be welcoming author Dina Santorelli, author of In the Red. I'm going to give just a brief synopsis just to get wet your whistle out there. When Kirk Stryker, a respected certified public accountant, is brutally murdered in his office in the Long Island village of Gardenia, all eyes are on rival Marty Benning, the handsome newcomer whose high-tech firm has been stealing Stryker's business and attention. Muriel Adams, a middle-aged mom who has given up on love, falls head over heels for the charming yet enigmatic Benning, despite the warnings of friends and family. And when Benning is arrested for Stryker's murder, she is the only one to believe his innocence. Is Muriel blinded by love, or is Benning playing her for a fool? Please welcome author Dina Santorelli. Dina,
thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you for having me.
Oh, well, how could we not? The book is fabulous. And many other books of yours as well. I know you have a big fan club right here going on.
Aw, thank you. It's so funny because writing is such a solitary profession. So usually I'm up in the middle of the night, writing in the dark, everybody's sleeping. And I think, who's going to care? Is anybody going to read these things? And so it's nice to know that at least 6 people are reading it.
It was good.
A heck of a lot more than 6 people are reading. But I hear what you're saying. Bring us to that dark bedroom at night, though, when you're, or do you leave the bedroom so everyone can sleep and you sneak down someplace? What's your work life like?
Well, during the pandemic, it was in my bedroom because I had all my kids home from college and I was pretty crowded. But generally speaking, yeah, I sneaked downstairs in the middle, and especially my first novel, Baby Grand. I wrote that in the middle of the night, practically. I would set my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would slink downstairs exhausted, and I would just pound at the keyboard until I couldn't see anymore, and then I'd go back to bed and wake up with the kids. This is when they were younger. And that's pretty much how I wrote that novel. And then my other novels, I find that my process is different for each one. I wrote most of Baby by Lena, which is the second book in the trilogy, at Panera Bread. which is, it just worked out that way. And then my,
It's a good place to do it.
yeah, I know, right? I would get the same meal every time. I had like a, routine. And then I wrote most of Baby Carter in my daughter's bedroom because she had just gone to college. And so I don't know if I was just trying to absorb her essence or it was just a spare room that we had now that she was gone. So that's why I wrote. So the process is different for every book. I'm one of those writers where it's a struggle. And I hear this from other writers. I battle self-doubt constantly. It's, you think that your current book is your last book was your last book and, you've lost it. And I've heard Stephen King say this. I've heard all kinds of writers say this, but it's true. And even when you finally finish and you're excited and it's published and once you start the next one, it's like, oh no, I lost it. I don't know if I can do this again. But I guess that's part of my process.
Where exactly did you write In the Red then? Was that Panera? Was that a Starbucks book?
In the Red was pretty much an In the House book. I wrote that after Baby Grand. What's really funny is when I read books, I tend to switch genres. Like I'll read a thriller and then I'll read something like a memoir and then I'll read a romance. And so when I started writing novels, I just thought that would be my process. I would write, Baby Grand, which was a mob thriller, and then I'd switch to a mystery book, and then I would write something else. So I started writing Baby Grand. I started writing In the Red after Baby Grand, and I really struggled with it. Generally speaking, it takes me about 1.5 years to write a novel, I'd say, give or take. And it took me 4 years to write In the Red. And I think the reason is because I knew that the Baby Grand story was not finished. And so I was struggling with creating a new story when really my heart was in finishing the first one. So once I finished the first draft of In the Red, I sort of put it aside and then went back to the Baby Grand trilogy and wrote books 2 and 3. And that's why I came out with those next. And then when I went back to In the Red, I'd say at the end of 2018, I realized that I had grown as a writer during that time. And so when I reread In the Red, I thought it was awful. And so I ended up rewriting a good chunk of it during the course of 2019 until it came out in November.
Wow.
So that's my process. And so
But
now I'm
you're
writing
doing science fiction, right?
Yes. And then I decided, I'll just do something else and I'll try
Wow.
something new. And I'm writing a science fiction thriller. It's almost done. And we'll see, it's my process, my sensibility, I should say, is the same for all the books, whether I find that whether I'm writing a mystery or science fiction or a mob thriller, I have the same type of humor that I like to incorporate, the same type of structure. I like that multi-narrator thing. I like my stories to be told by a variety of voices and a variety of points of view. Originally, the book I'm writing now was going to be a single narrator. I was going to do like, I always said I was going to do like a Hunger Games type thing where, Katniss Evergreen, right? Narrates. Everdeen, I'm sorry, Everdeen
Okay.
narrates the entire series. And so I thought maybe I'll try that. But I found that it just didn't work for me. I like having the point of view of a villain. I like, to be inside his head. I like just telling the story from various points of view.
So if I could ask, I'm always interested in the process. I know how, I think we're understanding how you write the book, but where do you get the inspiration for the story? Like where does that come from? Because you're doing different genres, right? So something has to spark you to really engage in like how I want to write this. So that's always seems to be my question. It's coming up. I find it fascinating how y'all do that.
I think every author is different, but for me, it depends. My current novel, The Reformed Man, came from a dream that I had in 2017. I woke up one morning and I ran into my oldest son's bedroom and I just told him what my dream was because I was so afraid I'd forget it. And he was shocked. He's like, I can't. There was such detail in the dream. And of course, the story has changed as I've written the book, but that the germ of the idea is there. But a lot of times I'll just be talking to someone, having a conversation, and they'll say something that stirs something in me. Other times I'm watching TV A lot of times I'm watching TV shows or movies and I find that they don't end the way I would want them to end. And that gets my brain moving, and I'm thinking, well, what if this happened? And what if this character turned out to be different in some way? And I just start thinking like that, and then I just develop ideas. So it really can come from anything.
What inspired to write In the Red?
I was interested in writing a mystery. I had never done it before, and so I wanted to do one, but I didn't want it to be the classic mystery. I just wanted to sort of throw out the formula and just write this story. I wanted it to take place on Long Island, and I wanted to use a fictional place on Long Island and just tell
Gardenia. I love
Gardenia.
that. The name of it, yeah.
Everyone
I think
keeps
of Garden City when
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right. Everyone says to me, is that really Garden City? And it's not really. It sounds like it would be
Yeah.
on Long Island, I thought. So I just
or
wanted
the
to try
Striker's
doing.
house. Like you had the Striker's house on the North Shore. What were
Yes.
you thinking about, Mrs. Striker's house? What town were you thinking of when you were describing that?
You know what? I didn't have any in particular, and there wasn't one that I was thinking of in particular. I was just imagining it actually. But when I discussed like where the scene of the crime happened on Lakeshore Avenue, that's actually in my town of Massapequa Park. Like I envision my main street, what we call town. And so there's the corner of Park Boulevard and Clark, where that's actually in my mind where the scene of the crime happens. But it's in Gardenia and in the Red. But every time I drive past there, which is all the time, to go to the post office, to go to the restaurant, I'm like, oh, that's where the scene of the crime was.
I feel like you also, and I'll ask you this question, that you added romance to the book in a very different way, but I loved it. Where did your idea of Muriel and Marty Benning, where did that come from? Was it, or did it just some part of your imagination, or is it something that you were looking to introduce into the story?
I guess I was just interested in the idea of this middle-aged woman who was feeling uninspired. She was feeling like her marriage was by most standards okay, but she wasn't feeling passionate. She wasn't feeling in love. I mean, she loved her children, but she just had this feeling that something else was out there. And I thought it might be interesting that when she finally found this love that she never thought even existed, that it turned out to be somebody who was a suspect in a horrific murder. I just thought that was interesting. So that's where that came from. She
never had a doubt. It was,
she didn't.
Where did the scene come from? This was like amazing to me. The scene where the note was left in the ceiling. I absolutely,
nice.
What he wrote to her.
Aww.
I started crying.
That was really nice.
Oh my
I was crying too. I was crying too.
Oh
It was really nice.
Why did you wait a day to kind of kill him off? Like that was very, that caught me off guard. He was released from jail.
I know. People get really angry at me for stuff like that,
You didn't give it like a week.
I feel very strongly, this is just the way that I write. I feel very strongly that anybody should be able to be killed off. Like I feel like a lot of times when you're watching, no, really. A lot of times when you're watching a show and and it's getting very suspenseful. I mean, I think to myself, oh, they're never going to kill off that person. That's the star of the show. So it loses something.
Yeah.
So when you read my books, I want you to know that anybody at any moment can go. Yeah.
That was a shock.
That was
I was
a
like,
shock.
give Muriel some.
Yeah.
He deserves the love.
He was so excited and then boom.
I know. People said, I thought there was going to be a sequel.
But it was
I
good
know.
that it turned out that way. It turned out the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I have
made
a
it
question.
feel all right.
What made you think of the Orient? What brought you astronomy? What was that all connection for you?
Orion.
I've always loved astronomy. And Orion is one constellation that I see, and it's my home face. It has southern exposure, So that's the one constellation I see all the time in the wintertime. And I just thought, it's one of those things that just came to me. I thought, wouldn't that be interesting that there's this, this connection. It's funny because when I'm piecing together a novel, like I've said this before, that I just see like a basic skeleton. In the case of In the Red, I saw Muriel and Marty's story, and I built everything around that. In the case of Baby Grand, I saw, there's a kidnapping, an abduction, and I saw that story very clearly, and I built the story around there. So yeah, so at some point, I guess during the writing of In the Red, it just came to me, oh, this would be an interesting, facet to include.
It was different, yeah.
Yeah.
I also
I
wanted
was,
to,
I
I'm
was
sorry, go
really
ahead.
surprised at the whole situation, the behind situation of what happened with Stryker and Samfield and all of that. That really, another thing was like, it was like the moment of, oh my God,
Oh,
God,
good.
how horrible. No, not, but you made me have the emotion of, oh my God, in your writing, because I was so shocked at what was happening. And you really, it was a wow, like, wow,
that's great. That's what I'm going for. I'm playing with, what we think about, like how we see people. I mean, a lot of the people in the book are these upstanding citizens that are well respected, and there's stuff going on behind the scenes that people don't realize. And then you have somebody like Marty Benning, who people are sort of unsure of, and he turns out to be this good guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away. I guess it's too late at this point.
Yeah.
But
I had a question.
Yeah.
First of all, I loved Muriel's character. I love her sarcasm and just, she cracked me up in the beginning of the book. But I had a question. Now, did Eva, as an 11-year-old, kill her father, or was he dead already and she made those things, put the Orion on his stomach? And how did she get it on her stomach? He did it to her while she was younger?
Those are interesting questions. And sometimes I'm intentionally ambiguous in the books.
Yeah.
I can say that, yes, he unfortunately did that to her. But I specifically left it unclear. And I have to say, you're the first one to ask me this question. And I intentionally left it unclear what exactly happened to her father in the bathtub.
She killed him.
She's the one who found him.
But there were
right?
Right.
So was it suicide versus?
But the fact that he has the Orion on his stomach,
Right.
that would made me question, like, maybe he didn't die of natural causes.
Right.
Maybe he did die of natural causes.
Sorry, I'm a speech therapist.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's one of those things that I left intentionally ambiguous. I'm not even sure that I can answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But that's a great question, because
It was a good question. They're smart. This group is smart.
Really good.
And did Sanzone's cousin actually kill Marty? I mean, that's really,
Yeah.
I know he was convicted. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I loved Marty too. I know. There was one time
we all fell in love with Marty.
I know.
He was like the guy that everybody was thinking he was so bad, but we all loved him. You all love him, right?
Did anybody suspect him at all during the course of the novel?
Like for a minute.
In the beginning, but then I'm like, well, nah, I'm supposed to think of him, but he's probably not. But yeah, I did in the beginning.
Oh, and that plastic surgeon, Ben Snow, what a
dirtbag. What a terrible dirtbag.
Your favorite.
That's
Are any of your characters like shells of people you've come across?
It's funny. I take aspects of my personality. I take aspects of people that I know, their personalities, and I just sort of intertwine and intermingle them, and I put them in various people. So I can't really say that any one character. They're all really composites of.
You don't want to get in trouble.
Exactly.
Any favorite
Your friends won't be friends with you anymore.
believe it or not, and people find this surprising, my favorite character in this book is John Parker.
Mine too.
Yeah.
He was a latecomer to this book. I added him very late. I decided that the book needed some sort of a media element, or I needed this nosy newspaper reporter to be like snooping around. And I love the idea that he was sort of just out of college, and he really didn't know what he was doing, and it was either work at Friendly's or work at the local newspaper, and he found himself working for the local newspaper, and he found out that he had this nose for news that he didn't realize he had. He was a good investigator. He didn't really do things necessarily on the up and up, but he got the story. So I thought, and it's funny when I think of those scenes that take place in the newspaper office, that small office. I started my career as an editor for the Massapequa Post. And so I think of that time. I always think of my editor and the way our offices were situated. So I framed that part of the story around those experiences.
Speaking of interviews, I want to hear all about like the Kevin Bacon, the Keith Sutherland, Vince Vaughn. I want to hear like the juice.
Well, can you say
how did that all happen?
Will they get mad?
No, not really. I don't really, I don't mean it like that, but I just was curious how, like tell us a little bit about how you became a writer. Like what did you start out doing and that kind of thing?
Well, I started off at the Massapequa Post right out of college, and then I ended up working in the trades. I was working for this publication that wrote about like floor covering, and then I was writing about lamps and things like that. And I remember at the time there was no internet, and my mom would be like, "Who are you writing for? Where do I get this publication?" Because it was like, like an industry trade publication. And so then I had my kids, and I made the jump to freelance writing, and I started writing for Newsday and other outlets. And then when I got the job as editor of Family Magazine and Salute Magazine, which I'm still editing today, I started doing a lot of celebrity interviews. Because it all started because of the USO, and a lot of these actors and actresses were going overseas to perform for the troops. And because we're a military-oriented publication, I got the opportunity to interview a lot of celebrities about that. And so that's how sort of that started. And so my latest interview for Salute was with Bret Michaels, who does a lot for the troops.
Nice.
He's amazing. And so most of the celebrity interviews I've done have been for those military magazines, but I also write for Long Island Woman magazine, and I've gotten the opportunity.
I love that magazine.
Yeah. So I've gotten the opportunity to interview celebrities for that too. So it's been amazing.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Any favorites? I'm still going to ask any favorites.
My favorites, one of my all-time favorites was James Gandolfini from The Sopranos.
Wow, yeah.
And
what's not to like?
I know. And what I loved most about him was he was not the way he seems on The Sopranos. He didn't have that accent. He was so soft-spoken. And he did so much for the troops, and you never heard anything about it. It was never publicized. He seemed to be such an amazing, genuine person. So he's one of my favorites. Another favorite that comes to mind was comedian Paul Reiser. He used to be in the Mad About You series. And the reason that one I love is because that's one of the few interviews I did in person. And I was in uptown, Midtown Manhattan, and we were I forgot where we were. I think we were in like a restaurant in a hotel. And I brought like this was in the 90s, and I had this old clunky tape recorder that I was using to record my interview. And, of course and I got new batteries, and I was like, I had spare batteries just in case something happened. And it started breaking in the middle of the interview. So every time I would be listening to him and asking questions, but my eyes would be glued to those little knobs that were turning, because every now and then they would stop, and I would give it this big whack. And every time I did, he jumped and said, I feel like you're going to whack me next. And it was so funny. I mean, I was a nervous wreck at the time, but looking back, it was just so funny. I'll just never forget that. He was really awesome about it.
Thank God he was a comedian,
Exactly.
Tatiana, I think you want to ask something.
Yes.
My question was about the favorite character, but I have another one. Why did you choose the name In the Red for your book? why not, let's say, the mystery in the office or murder in the office?
I thought In the Red was a great title because it had a variety of meanings. Clearly, when you're in the red financially, you know, you're not, it's not. And the main characters, well, some of the characters in the book were CPAs and in the financial industry. So there's that. And then in the red also refers to like blood in terms of murder.
That's
but
what I
also,
thought at the beginning.
right. But it also refers to like red as in the heart, in love. And so I thought it was this, it was the perfect title.
Nice full circle then.
Like
for
the
a lot of
trifecta,
different things.
exactly.
Now, can I ask you a question about Anthony Citriano?
Yes.
Yes. Was he really unaware of all the things that were going on with Stryker and where all the money was coming? Did he not ask? Did he not want? And well, I know it's like asking you a question. I'm almost asking you a question like if he's a real person.
No, but he is, to me, he's a real person.
Yeah, he is to me too. So you get a point where you're not sure if he did know. You kind of not like, I wasn't so sure that he didn't know.
My intent with Anthony Satriano was that he did not know. I think that was his fatal flaw. I think that he took the support of Kirk Stryker without any, caveats, without asking where the money's coming from. He just sort of, sort of accepted it. Aw, she wants to join us. But I think somebody asked a question before about the note that was hidden in the ceiling.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Up in the roof, up in the ceiling.
Yeah,
And her son said something to her, and then she decided to go look because Marty, she caught Marty. Yeah.
I thought that could be interesting because I was trying to have readers think it was something else. Like I was leading up, something. I don't know how much I can give away at this point. I might as well just, but the murder weapon was never found, right? And so at the very end, when the son comes in and says, "Oh, I saw Marty putting something in the ceiling in the bathroom," and I guess I wanted the reader to think, "Oh, could this finally be the murder weapon?
Right, yeah.
After all, is he really guilty? I mean, did he really kill Kirk Stryker?" Only to find out that he didn't, and it was something else. Because I always think it's funny when in like cop shows and things like that they always find the murder weapon, and I always think, we live on an island, we're surrounded by water, and what are the odds that you're gonna find the murder weapon and it could just toss it, so I was just playing with that idea.
I found
I really at that point I think did you think that Muriel felt a little doubt as well at that moment? Like, what is this, like what is really in there? And until she finds out what it is, for a second there, we all like, uh-oh,
Right.
Do you think that Muriel ever doubted him, really?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know if I think the only time she was feeling a little something was when she sensed that he lied to her when he said that he was not on Long Island, and he was, but she never got to the bottom of it. But overall, she was in his corner pretty much from the start. Like she felt something. She felt like what she was feeling for him was real. What he was feeling for her was real. And she wasn't listening to her best friend, Roxanne. She wasn't listening to anyone. To her, this was something beautiful, and she didn't want anything to, tarnish that.
I like the relationship between Roxanne and Bobby, that how you threw that little
twist.
Oh,
yeah. I loved writing. Roxanne was a blast to write. Yes, she was just like foul-mouthed, and she was like, in your face, and I love
fierce. She was really fierce.
She was kind of like her rock, Muriel's rock.
Right, which the name Roxanne, that's why I chose that as her name. So that was good. So yeah, I love writing strong women. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to write. Especially when women may not, like in my first series of books, even when the women don't think they have that strength, or they don't feel strong, they find in the end that they always did. Yeah.
I liked your Eva and Lily, the opposite twins. That little connection you brought in, the opposite, and what happened, with the distance and why so long? What was your
I
thinking
think,
there?
yeah, I think it was just, I find that in real life, a lot of times people get disconnected for various reasons. And so I think I was just exploring that concept.
But Lily did know what was going on, and I think that she needed to distance herself from her family because Eva was just was you almost felt like she was in love with her own father at some point without really understanding it. And I think there must have been a point sometime like offset that Lily tried to talk to her and Eva was like, wasn't having it. And that was the
right.
end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I was just trying to explore how the same thing can happen to two people and they both, one person is able to, escape or separate herself from that experience and one person wasn't. Because I think that's true in real life. I think that, the same thing can happen to 5 people and those 5 people will have 5 different ways of seeing it and reacting to it. So that's what I was sort of going for there. And I always say to people, I know this conversation's gotten really heavy, but I'm really a very upbeat person and I have had a wonderful childhood. I have to say that. I always say that I'm like, Mom, I had a great mom, great dad. So I think I just like to be, I like to be scared, like, in the cinematic sense anyway, whether it's a TV show or a movie or a book. I like that, feeling of being on the edge of your seat and
makes you feel alive. You're alive,
Yeah. So
Dina, you are so lucky to get to meet your readers.
I know, I love this. Thank you for having me again. This is wonderful.
Oh, we're so happy
Thank
that
you.
we got a chance
Thank
to
you.
talk to you,
Get to
Dina.
the book so often. Have you
It was
ever had
wonderful.
say something to you that you were surprised by, like maybe about in the red, because I'm sure you've done other groups and books and things, that maybe someone said something like, oh, I didn't think they were going to go in that direction, or was there ever something that a reader said that was not quite what you expected them to take from it?
Gosh, nothing really comes to mind. The only thing that came to mind when you said that was one person who read the Baby Grand trilogy assumed that I was I was in the mob or sort of mob affiliation. I was no, this is all completely invented.
Well, you are Italian. You're on
I
Long Island. Come on.
Yeah, living on Long Island, we already get in that whole genre.
Well, or even how you said I had a good childhood. It was all good. Maybe people think, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, I guess people. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But yeah, people. I find that people bring to my books their experiences and their sensibilities, and which makes it great. I mean, that's why everyone gets to experience books in their own special way. But something that they I can't think of anything. Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's okay. While
question,
you were
though.
reading the book, did you ever have a moment that you were reading thinking, oh, I'm glad we're going to get to meet her. I want to ask her about X, Y, and Z.
Oh, for me?
For
for
our
us.
readers.
Oh.
I think when I was reading the book, I always like to know where and I love that you even when you started asking questions, that your first thing was about your mindset and how you write, and that that you're trying to narrate through each character and different references, and so that speaks a lot to when I'm reading the book. I almost can feel like how you're thinking when you're writing about these things, because now I'm really dying to read the trilogy because
You know what's funny?
now I know how you write, and you said it's very similar. So that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
I agree. I
me,
like the way
yeah.
she wrote the books. I like the way she wrote the book as
I
well.
love all the twists and turns. Like you didn't know what was
thank you.
coming
Yeah.
next. it really makes for you to want to turn the page.
Oh, thank you. You
Yeah,
know,
it
it's funny when I was just listening to Betty, and she made me realize I can answer Stephanie's question now. I just thought of something.
Oh, yay.
I had a few readers after reading the first books tell me that they thought I was that they knew politically where I fell just from reading Baby Grand and Baby by Leno and Baby Carter. Yeah, they assumed that I was conservative, which I thought was interesting. But really, I just want to say that when I can't speak for other authors, but I know when I write a book, I try to be apolitical. I try to, when I'm writing a scene from either Kirk's perspective or from Detective Munson's perspective or Satriano's perspective, I am in that character. So if that character happens to be conservative, I'm going to write it from that point of view. If the character tends to be liberal, or I write it from that point of view. So I try to create, I guess maybe it's from my journalism background, but I try to be as objective as possible when writing my books, and also to be as fair as possible. So I thought it was so interesting when someone said to me that I was like finally writing a book for conservatives or something. I just thought that was a strange comment, because yes, there are conservatives in Baby Grand, but there are also liberals, and there's, and I think I'm fair, and I present, each one in a positive light, because if I'm writing a scene from the perspective of a person who happens to be conservative, he thinks he's right. And if I'm writing a scene from the perspective of someone who is liberal, he thinks he's right too, or she. So, I have to write from that place. So, like I said, I try to be very fair and very objective.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense, that's for sure.
So they think I'm in the mob, they think, I'm conservative. So they have these preconceived ideas of what they, who I am, and then they
you have
meet
dead
me.
bodies in your closet.
Right.
That's like Stephen King. I mean, he writes some really, really out there stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
I've always felt like Stephen King is
dark side,
very dark,
Yeah.
but apparently he's not, at all. So
right, you dark
as a
up
person,
here.
you mean?
Right,
No,
right.
I've seen Stephen King doing interviews, and just like you're saying, he's really sweet. He's really nice. He's a really nice person. Yeah, it's sometimes we get confused as to where's the separation comes, but as a book club, as we've gotten to know authors, we found that just like you, they're their own person. They're because they write something like a psychological thriller doesn't mean that they're psychologically impaired.
Right.
They're not telling us.
Right.
Yeah,
I think about the was it E.L. James who wrote 50 Shades of Grey? I remember she was saying, I'm really a very conservative, I don't do any of these things, because people just assume that she was
Right. I think he's like a conservative Mormon housewife or something.
Yes, yeah.
do any of your children
Wow,
follow
that's really out of their ballpark.
do any of your children follow in your footsteps, writing, journalism?
They want nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. I think, because mom's doing this, they want to find their own path. And so my oldest is doing math and computer science. My daughter is studying Spanish, and my youngest son is business.
Oh, okay. Well, different.
So, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So they're big now. So, when I'm writing in the middle of the night, I don't have to worry about getting up with them anymore.
Well, I
Thank
know
goodness, right?
there can't be a sequel, but I'm wondering for our readers here, if there was a prequel, who would you want
That's a good
whole book
question.
about, perhaps? Is there
That's a
someone
good question.
Nice.
I mean, you've got the
know-
author right here. Maybe you should write another book if you've got it, if you've got any ideas.
It's funny. I have been approached about writing a sequel, and you're right. I intended this to be a standalone novel, but then I started thinking, because I love at the end how Detective Munson is like, she goes to see Parker that last time and basically says, leave me alone. I'm going to live my life. But I thought, wouldn't it be funny where maybe 5-10 years down the road, they somehow join up again to solve some sort of a murder. Maybe by then Parker's a huge star and he's like he's maybe on 60 Minutes or wherever he is. And he's
Hey, there you go. You have a
struggling.
book. You outlined your future. Stephanie, you just gave her an idea
I
for the
know.
future.
So I've thought of doing something like that. We'll see. I have so many ideas. I want to write like a romantic thriller.
About that.
Romantic thriller. Okay.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
have a lot. You're great. You do a lot.
Fine.
You do a lot of different genres.
Okay.
It's. I find a lot of authors can stay in just feel the need to stay in one genre. If they do historical fiction, they stay with historical fiction. I love that you're branching out into all different genre. Is that something you've always wanted to do, or is it just as books ideas come to you? How do you get to that point?
I think it's a little of both. I think I like the challenge of doing something new. And I get bored easily. I don't
Yes,
want to
that's
stay
what I
doing
was
the
thinking.
same thing over and over, because I think that people got used to the Baby Grand books. And I got a lot of hate mail when when they sensed that the third one was the last one, because they wanted things to end differently. Not a lot, I should say, a few. And so, but I was ready to try something different. I like to challenge myself. And so, yeah, I like to try. I mean, I happen to like the thriller genre. So I think whatever I do will be an aspect of thriller. But yeah, I'd like to try. So I'm trying sci-fi. I'd like to try romantic thriller. And we'll see, I think that's the great thing about being a writer. You can do all these different things.
Speaking of the sci-fi, what made you decide to go into that?
The dream.
I had
Oh, that was-
absolutely no desire to do. Well, I shouldn't say that. The dream was definitely the impetus behind doing it now. But I also am a big fan of Michael Crichton's books, and he was a huge influence on me. When I was working as an editor in the city back in the 90s, I would just plow through his books like week after week. And I thought, he had such a way of presenting these outlandish ideas, that you can create dinosaurs, and create like an amusement park, those kinds of things, in a way that it was believable. And so I think with my current sci-fi novel or sci-fi thriller, I'm trying to do something similar, trying to create this world that is believable, and that the people within it, but it's not otherworldly in that I'm dealing with aliens and things like that. It's people like you and me finding themselves in this otherworldly situation.
Did you have to do a lot of research for that?
I do absolutely no research for my novels. I shouldn't say no, but virtually none. And I think it's because I have a journalism background and I'm constantly researching for my day job. So when it comes to writing my
it's
novels,
already in there.
yeah, I just like to, just go with it and wherever my imagination takes me. That's not to say if I find myself stumped that I won't quickly do like a spot Google search on something. But I don't do like exhaustive research before I start. I just basically sit and I go.
One question that I'm sure people ask you already, how does it feel to be a woman in writing when men really predominated a lot of the writing for such a long time? Like a lot of men get their books made into movies. And I feel like now I'm seeing such, with your books, and there's so many women writers out there now that are busting through the walls and making a big difference, and movies are now coming from women. How do you feel about, like, did you feel that any challenges with that at all? And
I feel like it's the right time, I guess, for me. It's funny, you're right. When I think about my favorite authors from 10, 20 years ago, I would say, James Patterson, John Grisham, Michael Crichton. But now I would say my favorite authors are Gillian Flynn, Lisa Jewell, Emma Donoghue. I find that it's mostly women. So yeah, there's definitely been some sort of a shift. And I think it's an exciting time for women, especially in this genre, which you're right, it was predominantly male. And so women are saying, hey, we can write murder and mayhem too, just give us the chance. So yeah, it's definitely exciting.
I love that, because I think it's really time. I mean, you know, I can see your books being made into movies. I mean,
Oh my
why
gosh.
not?
From your lips to
Oh,
Steven
right?
Spielberg's
I shouldn't
ears.
say that.
Well, here's a question for our readers then. Who do you envision playing Marty Benning?
Ooh, good
Ooh.
question.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right, and let's see if we, Dina, get somebody in your head, Dina, and maybe let's all see if we can guess who she has in mind.
Well, I know who I based the character on.
Okay.
Ooh.
Let's see.
Ooh.
But
Okay.
it's from I came up with this idea 20 years ago, so he's a little too old, I think, to play Marty Benning now.
Okay.
Well, we'll just picture him young.
Okay.
So who do you think, ladies? Who do you think she should pick? And let's see if we get it right.
I
Any
was thinking
ideas?
Dean Kane or Richard Gere.
Oh, I'm going Clooney.
Yeah, George Clooney.
Ooh.
Clooney, or I was also thinking even a Tom Selleck type.
Okay.
But- No, yeah, he was. Yeah.
Back then, he
Clooney.
was, yeah, when he was younger. Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that, Betty, definitely.
Okay. Dina, who is it after?
I can't believe it, but Jessica hit it on the head. It was Richard Gere. Richard Gere. Yeah. I especially the movie he did, Primal Fear. Like when I think of Primal Fear, I think of that's my Marty Benning. And if you notice, what was that character's name in that movie? It was Marty Vale. And so yeah, so that's why I chose the name
you were
Marty.
being sneaky.
I was being sneaky. But Jessica, you also mentioned Dean Kane, and getting back to what someone asked
He's
me
sexy
before,
too.
he was one of my favorite interviews as well. I interviewed him about 10 years ago. He
Oh.
was wonderful. He seems like such a nice
Yeah,
guy.
down to earth, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but wow, I can't believe no one's guessed it so far. I mean, and that's
Wow,
awesome.
Jessica.
Jessica should be a casting.
Jessica knows her men.
Now, how about Muriel Adams? Does anybody have someone in mind for Muriel Adams?
Oh, Muriel Adams.
Oh, what's Jillian from the X-Files?
Jillian
Okay.
Anderson.
Yeah, I'm thinking her for some reason.
Okay.
That's good.
Or who's in Silence of the Lambs with the red hair?
Oh,
like-
Julianne Moore.
Julia Moore.
Julianne Moore.
I could see more playing Muriel
Yeah.
Adams.
Yeah.
Or a younger Annette Bening would have been a good character to. She has a classic beauty, but she's not like
Drop dead
out,
gorgeous.
you know,
Yeah.
Right.
and I could see somebody like Richard Gere, Marty, falling in
Marty.
love with a character like Annette Bening, Julianne Moore, also. So
Meryl Streep in her younger
I like
days.
the rest of the
Maybe in her
girls.
younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dina,
Who
do
else
you
does
get
anybody
pictures in your
think?
mind as a writer? Do you you can see your characters as you're writing them?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you really, I know a lot of authors have said that, but you feel like you're there, you're just a fly on the wall. And a lot of my scenes start off as dialogue. Like I hear the dialogue in my head and I just have to quickly write it down. And I'll be in the kitchen chopping vegetables. I'll be, taking a shower, and I will hear the dialogue just going back and forth. And that's usually where my chapters start from, some elements of dialogue.
So who
Yeah.
would you want to play Muriel Adams?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, for some reason I'm thinking Jennifer Garner right now because I saw a movie with her
Oh, I like
yesterday, so
her.
she's on my
Yeah,
mind.
she would be good.
Yeah. Oh, she
So-
would be good.
Yeah.
She's like not drop dead, but like the girl next door.
Girl that you know.
Yeah. She's a good
And what
person.
about
Seems like a good
Roxanne?
person.
I was thinking Roxanne, who would pay her.
Yeah, fiery Roxanne.
I don't know.
I
That's a
could see
good
Rosie
question.
Perez, like a Rosie Perez.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's
That would
sassy.
Got the accent.
Someone really
Uh-huh.
sassy.
Although she was a speech therapist, so I don't know.
That's
Funny.
funny.
They
Yeah,
say
I
that
don't know.
everybody is writing a little piece of themselves. Which one of the characters has the most of you in there?
The most of me, I guess, would have to be, oh gosh, I think it would be, it would be Muriel and Roxanne together.
Like a cross between
Yeah,
the two.
I'm definitely a cross between the two.
They got
I
each
would
other's
say.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the story about the cat that Roxanne tells, that happened to me. In some sense, it's not exactly the same. And clearly Muriel has the children and the house. So, you know, and when I describe her home, a lot of that has to do, you know, is the way my home looks. So it feels like me, even though it's not necessarily me. But yeah, I'd say those two characters, it would be split down the middle, Muriel and Roxanne.
And
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Yeah.
Is it like, in terms of being a writer, is it true, like, you know, like how they have in the movies or whatever, like they have the notebook next to their night table, and when they wake up, they have to write it down? Like, is that the way it works? Or
That is the
or
way
they sneak, or they have their alarm set and they sneak down the stairs like you?
that is the way it works. I mean, I used to have a notebook and a pen next to my bed, but the problem with that is, and this used to happen all the time, I would get these amazing ideas in the middle of the night, write them down, and then the next morning I'd be like, what the heck does this say? Like I couldn't read it because I was writing in the dark. And so now I keep my phone there, which isn't, you know, the greatest, but I do keep my phone there. And so I just type it out. So at least I know it's going to be legible.
Do you listen to music? Does music inspire you sometimes? The lyrics for any kind of music or genre for music?
You know, music will inspire me when I'm not writing. What's, you know, if I'm in the car, like it'll get my mind churning. But when I'm actually sitting down to write, it has to be silent. I can't have any music at all. It's a weird thing because when I'm editing, I listen to music, but when I'm writing, I can't listen to any.
What kind of clogs your head with the music and
yeah, it drowns out the voices.
Yeah, that are talking to you at that moment.
Right.
The ones that are in the shower with you.
I always say writing is like that movie, A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe.
Yes, that was a good one.
Yeah, at the end where he's just walking away and you see those people in his mind following him wherever he goes. You know, that's essentially my life. You know, wherever I go, wherever I look, there they are.
Yeah, there you are.
But in a good way.
Can you turn them off at will? Like, are there times you want to turn them off?
Yeah, there are a lot of times. I find that they go away when the book's finished, which is interesting. You know, once I have everything down on paper, so to speak, I'm not bothered anymore by them. I guess because I'm moving on and that story's done, and I feel like, you know, I've done it justice. Hopefully, I can move on to the next set of people just waiting to invade my space.
How much of a break do you take between the next book?
I usually take a good month or two. I don't wait that long. Because I'm eager. I have all these ideas. I just want to, and because it takes so long to write a book, like a year and a half at least. So I start doing the math and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to start going if I want to do all this stuff.
Well, we're thrilled that you wrote this one and that there's so many more. I just want to remind everybody, because we want them to go out and grab this.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Not only In the Red, but also the Baby Grand Trilogy and all the other things that are to come. You absolutely want to grab a copy of this.
Oh,
and
thank you.
It is so great to meet you here. And, I'm sure so many people, every book club in the world is now like, I can have the author come to my.
When I first spoke with you, Dina, it was just so wonderful to know that you were so open to speaking with the book club.
Of course.
And we get that now. It's just a beautiful thing to have these opportunities.
Thank you.
Tonight was, I have to say, thank you beyond words. It was you're amazing. And I think everybody will tell you what they feel, but for me, I feel like I have the whole, like In the Red, it made a difference.
Oh my gosh.
And I loved it, and I want to thank you so much.
Thank you for reading it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, because it really wouldn't mean anything without having you guys read it and embrace these characters. So thank you. I should be thanking you.
Aww.
And also for people out there, don't forget, put your reviews in Goodreads, Amazon, Instagram, because it means a lot to the authors as yourself, I'm sure your books get, that you have people coming to you that want to know and want to read your books. So thank you for
Betty, thank you
for
so much
sharing.
for reminding
Thank
them
you.
of that. That's really a huge way of thanking you.
Very important, because like you said, Stephanie, if it's not for the reviews and for the people advocating for our wonderful authors
Absolutely.
like yourself, Dina, nobody would know. And so we're here.
Right, let's get the
Thank
word
you.
out.
We're ready.
Get the
Thank
word
you.
Thank
out.
you.
Well, Dina, you were fabulous. And when that next one is done, I think we'd like to have you back. When
I would love that.
the sci-fi book is done. Well, thank you so much for all of your insights into the book and into the process. That's really
Of course,
cool.
of course. I'd like to give away a book if that's okay. Can I do that?
Yes.
I have one here just looking for a home. I think, Stephanie, should we do, I think I'll do, whoever has their birthday closest to mine
Yeah, that's
will
good.
get the free
Sure.
book.
Good. And
Any February birthdays here?
oh,
Tatiana.
February 11th.
I'm 25th.
Ah,
Uh,
we have a
That
winner.
was January 21st. Am I, do
Oh,
I?
wait a second. Let's,
Okay.
oh my God, my math is bad. So
Oh, I'm
25,
I
so it's
probably
Where's
not.
14
calculator?
days. I think
No, she-
Tatiana's closer.
Tatiana got it.
Yes.
Thank you so
Tatiana.
much.
thank
I
you.
was enjoying reading your book. I like your style. So I read it in 1 week. Usually it takes
Oh my
me 2
God.
or 3 weeks. I did in 1 week and I enjoyed. And the end was so emotional. I was crying when I was reading Money's.
Oh,
You know,
I
thank
read
Meta,
it in
it's
2
really
days
good.
because I couldn't put it down. I just sat there, and then I had to go to sleep.
I'd say it was a page turner, but I read it on my Kindle, so it was a page
Me too.
swiper.
It was a clicker.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, it was a toe tapper. Well, congratulations, Tatiana.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have it not on my Kindle, but you know, like the real one.
Oh, the real
Oh,
one
that's
is
nice.
beautiful. Dina, can you hold it up again? It's
Oh, sure. You
gorgeous.
see?
Oh, that's a gorgeous.
Oh,
Oh, that's beautiful.
gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
And thank you again for inviting me tonight. This was wonderful.
Oh, you're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Between the Covers. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're an author who would be interested in appearing on our show, or perhaps you're a member of a book club, we do host book clubs as well, please visit BetweenTheCoversTV.com. By the way, at BetweenTheCoversTV.com, you can watch past episodes in addition to learning more about our authors and guests. So sign up there if you would like to be a guest on the show yourself. And if you have some books that you would like to get written or published, visit redpenguinbooks.com. Thanks so much for joining us.